Coming up on the Paper Talk today, we'll be looking at Bryan Mbeumo. Is he going to be coming to Manchester United or is he going to be Spurs? He's actually been speaking about his future. He's actually been speaking about the speculation surrounding his future, I should say. Let's get into it. Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford and it's a little bit sunny. So you probably don't need your parkers today. Loads of stories to get through. Before we do though, make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. We've smashed through the 800,000 subscribers barrier, if you can call it that. Next stop, 900,000 with your support. We'll get there. Obviously, a lot of the stories this morning focusing on Bryan Mbeumo. Which way is he going to go? Is he going to go to Spurs? Is he going to go to Manchester United? We're going to get into that in a minute. But first of all, there was a post by Fabrizio Romano talking about Alejandro Garnacho, saying that Garnacho, who we all know, is going to leave Manchester United in the summer. And Fabrizio Romano sort of reiterated that. I don't think there's any surprises there. You saw Garnacho, the comments he made after the Europa League final, the fact there was pretty reliable sources indicating, reliable reports indicating that the manager had told him you better pray you get another club. So he's obviously not part of the manager's plans for next season. It looks like he's going to be heading out the door. And according to Romano, he wants to stay in the Premier League. Garnacho looking to stay in the Premier League, which is slightly surprising because a lot of the sort of noise around Alejandro Garnacho was that he would end up going perhaps to Napoli, who were interested in him in the January transfer window. But it seems as though he could be staying in the Premier League. Now, there were reports around January as well, linking him with Chelsea. Chelsea love buying everyone, don't they? They're linked with everyone. So potentially there could be a move there. They're not keeping Jadon Sancho at Stamford Bridge. They've sent him back, or he's coming back to Manchester United. They paid £5 million as a sort of penalty, but they didn't want to pay the wages that he wanted. I think they were offering him around 90k a week. He wanted closer to the 250k a week. He's on here at Manchester United. Now, I don't think Garnacho will be on any wages close to Jadon Sancho. I don't expect his wages to be anywhere near 250k a week. So maybe Chelsea could afford Garnacho's wages, and maybe that would be a move that works and makes sense for everyone. If he wants to stay in the Premier League, Chelsea are still interested in him. They do love buying players. Then that could be a potential destination for Alejandro Garnacho, Stamford Bridge. Let me know what you think. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Do you think there's any scenario where Garnacho has a future at Manchester United? If he wants to stay in the Premier League, if another Premier League team doesn't come in for him, then where does that leave him? Has he completely burnt his bridges? Or do you think Ruben Amorim might be willing to forgive him? I don't think he's got a future at Manchester United. I think Ruben Amorim can be quite tough. I know he comes across as pretty jovial and sort of warm in press conferences, but we've seen the way he's been with Marcus Rashford. We saw it at Sporting as well. He wasn't afraid to ruffle a few feathers and to get rid of players that he didn't think were suited to his style or pulling their weight. And I think Garnacho is going to end up leaving Manchester United. In terms of incomings, the big news, I mentioned it earlier, Bryan Mbeumo. What is going to happen with him? We had this report, didn't we, sort of the end of last week, that Spurs had launched a bid for Bryan Mbeumo, being touted, I think it was the Mirror, I think Darren Lewis in the Mirror, saying it was around a £70 million bid, which was more than Manchester United were going to pay. However, it doesn't seem like anyone else is saying this. I mentioned this in my news yesterday. Only Darren Lewis seems to be reporting this. We've not had any credible sources, any credible reports indicating that Spurs have actually launched the second bid. Now, we know over the weekend, Spurs finalised the deal for Motty. He's he's staying, I should say, at the Spurs Stadium for, I think it's around £29 million. Doesn't mean they can't still buy Bryan Mbeumo if they wanted to. Mbeumo was speaking to Sky Sports and he said some nice things about Thomas Frank. He said he praised him, how he developed the team at Brentford, how he developed Mbeumo. He also said, I wish him well. And I'm hoping he was wishing him well from afar. I hope he's not, I wish him well when I get there. I hope he's saying I wish him well in his new adventure because I won't be a part of it. I mean, it depends how you look at that interview. He didn't really give it much away. He did speak about Thomas Frank. He did speak about the transfer speculation surrounding him, and he said it's all new to him in terms of Bryan Mbeumo, but he didn't mention anything that you can indicate, well, that means he's going to Spurs or that means he's going to Manchester United. The Evening News have done a story today, I think it's Sammy Luckers, saying more or less that Manchester United are still confident or still feel they can get Bryan Mbeumo. So it doesn't seem as though this is a case of, he's joining his old manager at Spurs. There's a couple of stories around that, but nothing major. And it still feels like Manchester United are in the driving seat. Manchester United are the only ones who we pretty much know have submitted a bid for Bryan Mbeumo. I think, was it 45 million plus 10 million add-ons? Very much felt like an initial bid. Not a bid where you make that and you think, well, that's that done. No. We expect another bid, probably this week. Don't forget the transfer window has reopened today. So bids can start coming in. I think Manchester United are going to make a bid this week, and I think it's going to be a lot more than the 45 million or the 44 million plus 10 million add-ons. I don't think it'll be 70 million quid. I think it's going to be around 60 million quid. It's an interesting one with Mbeumo because I think he's got 1 year left on his deal with an option for another year. So it's not technically 2 years, but it sort of is. So you can still get a decent amount of money for him, but you're not going to get silly money for him. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Let us know what you think. What's your limit on Bryan Mbeumo? Where do you think Manchester United should be? Where do you think we should walk away from the deal? Where do you think, you go, well, that's too much? Because everyone has their price, but United can't overpay. I love Mbeumo. I want to see him at Manchester United, but I understand the fact that there's got to be a limit to how much you can spend on him. I'm hoping the next bid is the successful one. I reckon it's going to be around 50 odd million plus 10 million in add-ons. Maybe it's 50 million, maybe it's 52, something like that. 10 million add-ons, that gets the deal done. We'll have to wait and see, but let me know what you think about it. In terms of other potential incomings, Viktor Gyokeres. I mentioned this yesterday, that he sort of looks like he said no to United. However, he hasn't said no to United. Fabrizio Romano did a video clarifying this. He prefers a move to Arsenal. But it doesn't look like Arsenal are definitely going to get him because Arsenal is still interested in Benjamin Sesko, and it feels as though that move is more likely than them moving for Viktor Gyokeres. There's also reports as well, I think it was in the Metro this morning, that Juve could be in for Viktor Gyokeres. Apparently, they're willing to pay the 11 million quid a year that it would take to cover Viktor Gyokeres' wages. Get me words out. There's still this sort of doubt, unsure, vagueness around Gyokeres and the deal and the price tag. No one can seem to get any sort of hard and fast clarity on it. There was this talk that maybe it's around 62.5 million. There was reports that it could be a little bit higher than that. Then there was this talk of a gentleman's agreement. Then you had the president of Sporting or whatever he is saying that that isn't the case. All getting a bit touchy. Then you had cryptic Instagram stories from Viktor Gyokeres. It all was getting a little bit messy and confusing. However, Manchester United's interest in Viktor Gyokeres seems to be quite logical in the sense that, well, he used to play for Ruben Amorim, he fits into Ruben Amorim's system, he scores loads of goals, and Manchester United need goals. But we haven't seen much more on that. We haven't seen anything where you go, well, we put a bid in, they're ready to buy him. And also Manchester United at the moment, it seems it seems that Bryan Mbeumo is the main target. And that's the deal that Manchester United are focusing on. So I don't know if whilst doing that, we're also going, hang on a minute, is 70 million quid to get Viktor Gyokeres done. Doesn't feel like it's going to happen. It feels like the way that Gyokeres will come to United, if he ever does, would be by us selling players. And for that to happen, well, you need to sell them. You need someone like Garnacho or Rashford or Sancho or Anthony to leave. And so far, none of the players I've just mentioned have. Another player we've been linked with is Hugo Ekitike. There were reports, and we've seen this, I think these are sort of rehashed ones, to be honest with you. I don't think there's that necessarily new, that he favours a move to Manchester United, that he is a sort of boyhood Manchester United fan. Maybe similar to Bryan Mbeumo in the sense that Bryan Mbeumo favours a move to Manchester United as well. However, as of yet, we haven't seen any concrete bids. We've seen interest. I think several papers, I think the Mirror and one or two others, Even News, have reported, I think maybe ESPN as well, have reported that Manchester United are interested in Ekitike and have even spoke to the club at Eintracht Frankfurt about getting Ekitike. But as of yet, we haven't got any bids on that front. We'll have to wait and see, and we'll keep you posted as always. There's still potential as well for Rasmus Højlund to go to Inter. That story isn't going away. Rasmus Højlund catching the interest of Inter Milan. We don't know what's going to happen there, but I certainly don't see him leaving unless another striker comes in first. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Let us know what you think. Make sure you're checking out the other videos on the channel. We've got a very good video by Joe Smith where he looks at Jason Wilcox and his importance at Manchester United. He's also done another video looking at Alejandro Garnacho and where it all went wrong there. We'll be back later on with the Paddock podcast. Don't forget to hit like, share and subscribe. I've been Motty. This has been The Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.